And I then had 4 cases that were national, international news, all one-of-a-kind cases in the country and the world, and 2 involved rape and abortion. And they came to me not from any pro-life organization, but from my yellow page ad under family law attorney, because that's what they needed.
And having been conceived in a rape and still being born and growing up and surviving and having good adoptive parents and, you know, caring adoptive parents, it shows what the possibilities there are. Even though it may look bleak initially, if you see it through, there's some tremendous possibilities. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about some of you mentioned your speaking. Tell us, you know, my guess is every time you go to a college campus, you're not overwhelmed with roses and and bouquets of flowers thrown at you. You ever have any problems, or is it just a wonderful opportunity for you?
Well, let me just say, though, that I get my tank filled, so to speak, when I speak at pro-life fundraisers and rallies. Mm-hmm. And people say profound things to me that you don't get to hear in everyday life, like, right. I'm so glad you were born. You know, when do you hear that in everyday life? So that really helps. But no, I have people say a lot of really rotten things to me. There's people who'd say things like, well, don't you think it's a bit extreme to tell a woman who's been raped that she should be forced to carry that child? And I just tell them, well, I think it's a bit extreme to tell another human being that they're garbage, that their life wasn't worthy of protection, that I didn't deserve to live. I think that's a bit extreme, don't you? They've even put on a poster, there's a Feminist for Life poster of me, did I deserve the death penalty? And they've defaced that poster and written yes under did I deserve the death penalty?
It's unbelievable to me. We've got about 5 minutes left. I want to go over some of the things that we have here. Nearly half of all the pregnancies of American women are unintended. Does that mean that women just aren't smart enough to know what's causing pregnancy? What's going on here?
It's not that women don't know about birth control, that's for sure. Yeah. But people just want to have freedom to just do whatever they want, when they want, and, you know, worry about it later. It's sad that our society is like that now, that people just don't have much foresight.
So they see that if there's consequences, they don't believe that there's consequences to their actions. They believe that they can go out, do something that could get them pregnant, but that's not a problem. They can get away. You know, and I think that the feminist movement, and, you know, not to pick on any one group, but the feminist movement has kind of promoted that, haven't they, in the last, that be free, no obligations, you know, being a mom is not the highest calling, which I believe it is. But
you know something, you know, I always heard as a child feminism, it's like, I am woman, hear me roar, yet today's feminists are the first to argue that basically women are weak and pathetic and can't handle very much, because they'll say, well, how could you expect a woman to have to go through that to carry a baby? Like women just can't handle very much, and that they'll just totally emotionally shrivel. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I consider myself to be a true feminist. You know, I'm going to equip and empower these women that you can do this, and I'll help them. And that's what crisis pregnancy centers do. They give them real help, and they say, you can have this baby, and we'll help you.
About half of all American women have experienced an unintended pregnancy. We already talked about. At the current rates of abortions, nearly 1/3 of those women will have an abortion by age 45. Isn't that? It's unbelievable that they see that as such a viable option.
That there's so many hurting women, I mean, and hurting men. That represents an awful lot of hurting people, and most women regret their abortion overwhelmingly. Most women regret their abortion.
There's 61% have one or more children at that time. So they know what it is to be pregnant. They know what it is to give birth. They have a child that has a brother or a sister inside of them, and they choose not to keep that. Mm-hmm.
And that's why crisis pregnancy centers now are giving help, not just for the woman and her baby, but they also are giving assistance for their toddlers, for their other children, because they know that they need real help. If they can just have some help with their child that they have now, then they'll have this baby. It gives them hope.
I think that's one of the great things for the crisis centers. 67% have never been married. So they're actually getting pregnant outside of marriage. That's a real problem.
Yeah, and it's hurt the family. I mean, I've heard the saying, why buy a book when there's a library? Yeah.
Well, you know what? I think you can buy a book, you take it home, you put it in there, and it's 75 or 57% are economically disadvantaged. Unfortunately, there's a racial overtone in that to me, and the next figure is extremely. Is it the fact that the unintended pregnancies of the disadvantaged, they don't have the education? Now, you told me that they did, but they're disadvantaged. They know they can't handle a child, yet they get pregnant.
Well, the abortion clinics are set up in their neighborhood,
yeah.
And strategically so. The founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, actually had something called the Negro Project. And she said she would set up these clinics and give out birth control in these neighborhoods, and that they would even try to work with the black pastors to convince women that they would be better off if they didn't have these children. And we know the result. They have not been better off. The divorce rate has skyrocketed amongst the black population.
And in the city of Detroit, you have 90% of the children in elementary and junior high school and high school do not go through their schooling in a house with their married mother and father. 90%. And then when you look at the graduation rates, you can understand why they have the problems. Which is the last figure, then we got to close it. 88% live in a metropolitan area. Exactly what you said. It's where the abortion clinics are at, isn't it?
Yeah. And Planned Parenthood will say, well, we need to have more abortion clinics in rural areas, and we need to force doctors to perform abortion. They have a big problem now because doctors don't want to do abortions, and it's almost easier for them to be set up in the inner city because they can go from one abortion clinic to another in a metropolitan area. But rural areas, then they'd have to drive really far. And there are some who will drive to certain towns one day a week and do abortions once a week in a certain town. But they want to force medical students to do abortions and to go on and force doctors to do abortions.
A couple of figures that we're going to end with here. One is 42 million abortions in the year in the world. 115,000 abortions in the world per day. 42 million per year. And the United States has had 50 million abortions in it since Roe v. Wade. I just want to finish with this one thing, and I wrote this down because I want to get it right. What your mother did for you and what you are doing for your children, your biological and your adopted children, and the thousands of unborn children given a chance at life because of your commitment to life, has a worth and value to our community, humanity in general, and our nation beyond all measure that I can thank you for it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to the show. Thank your mom for me next time you get to talk to her. And thank you for all the help you've given all the women out there.
Thanks. Other people recognize that mine was a life worth saving because they were pro-life without exception. And so now I'm just paying it forward and doing the same for others.
Thank you very much. My name is Jim Thienel. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.